very good relationship with China. They're the main company that is helping develop the infrastructure system in Ghana. Is Sino Hydro. It's a Chinese company. It's the one that's going to help process our bauxite and provide about $2 billion to us. So when there are these kind of arrangements, there are other things behind the scenes. Putting that lady in jail in Ghana is not going to solve your economic problem. It's not going to make you happy or me happy. That's not important. The most important thing that has been imported out of Ghana. So we must say something. I'm saying that there are many other things beyond what you see in these markets. And everybody is wide awake. The most important thing is that we have planned this, we have established regulations, and we are protecting our environment. And that is far more important than one Chinese woman who has
First of all, the fight against illegal mining in Ghana is something that has never been systematically undertaken until I came into office. So it's a first step, and it's a beginning. I think the decision that was made to deport the Aisha Huang, on hindsight, was a mistake, and that is why that procedure has been stopped. The attitude, the thinking was that problems involved in prosecuting, then having to hibernate and look after, etc. It was just better to send the person off. I think it was a mistake. And the response to that has been the amendment of the law that has now stiffened and enhanced the sanctions for people, both Ghanaians and foreigners who are engaged. You say that 20 people presently in custody, that may well be. I don't have the exact figure, but that may well be. But they are being in the process of being processed for court. And I have no doubt that very soon they will be put before court. Unfortunately, they're going to be put before court under these new laws that have been recently passed.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. For this segment, we have been joined by Andrew Ejapa Mesa. And he is MP Second D Vice Chair, Communications Committee of Parliament. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Right. I should be saying senior instead of say.
I'm not sure how
when he just insisted.
to that.
Yeah, but that was on a lighter note.
Yeah.
All right, so just a couple of messages on the earlier matter before we proceed to this other subject. Evans Ato Edu, Dr. Evans Ato Edu in Georgia says that, Dr. Ato Edu in Evans, Georgia, says that during my undergraduate at Rutgers University, there was a subject known as human sexuality, and the course outline is not different from the document on CSE in Ghana, from erotic stimulation to sexual orientation, among others. Ghanaians and the president must read the CSI document with a critical eye. A word to the cerebral is also a warning to the vulnerable. I see. Mame Adjoa says that Professor Gajepo has really spoken my mind since all this quote-unquote nonsense about the SE Wahala. Okay. Just sharing a couple of your messages with you. This one from Sally Kem. He says, polygamy is a crime in the UK and US. They don't teach their kids to tolerate and have an open mind about polygamy. All right. They are training teachers, master trainers with a draft document. Is that allowed? So he has questions about the claim that the document is only in the drafts and not finished yet. Baba Musa says that why are some hypocrites in Ghana struggling to associate the devilish and satanic comprehensive sexuality education with the former NDC government? Okay, Akufo-Addo in 2017 said in an interview with the international media that homosexuality was bound to happen under his government. Okay, Musa Abatwa says, why is any issue that generates controversy, Kukubaku, trying to juxtapose it with past events in order to get previous government to into brouhaha? Is okay, thank you. I can't read the rest of what you sent. Edmond Agbede says tolerance and not being judgmental means if a girl or boy decides to stay chaste until the right time, you don't judge. If a girl goes undergoes bragro, you don't sit. It doesn't sit well with Christians. Don't judge because a girl is pregnant. This is what they mean by not being judgmental. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll find a last one by Kweku and Chubwesi. He says, okay, so among others, he also says that his parents never taught him about sex. So the question that should be left to parents may not be exactly the way we want to have it done. So before, just a while ago, you heard Mr. Osafo Maafo, a statement he had made earlier when the Galamsey Queen, Aisha Huang, was deported. He tried to give a justification, and his justification why the government took that decision was that we were expecting some goodies from China. You know, the Sino-Hydro sort of butter. It's actually not a free gift that we are getting. The butter was important among other things. So there was no really, the cost analysis, there was no point, you know, focusing on prosecuting her. We had earlier been told by an employee, a presidential staffer, or someone in the press, in the Jubilee House, that prosecuting her was going to be very expensive. And so she was let to go. And now the president, that's also we played to you, has also been explaining out of the country that that was a regrettable decision not to prosecute her. Now, many are asking questions. There are Ghanaians who are into this small-scale mining, the havoc that they cause to our environment is really not much, very insignificant. And they are arrested, they are prosecuted, and they are jailed. Why is it that a Chinese who has been leading the biggest devastation because of the machines that she has led to bring into the country, she is let go when she's arrested? What do we make of this regret? Is that the end of the story? So let me begin with Kweku. And I don't know if you read the Occupy Ghana statement on this particular issue, a very interesting statement, raising all sorts of issues about it, because we know that even when she was to be tried, the charges that were preferred against her were charges that Occupy Ghana found very disturbing. And Occupy Ghana, together with the coalition, the media coalition against Galamsey, led by Ken Ashigbe as a convener, demanded, and the Attorney General enhanced the charges against her, only for us to learn that she was deported instead of being tried. What do we make of the regret? Some say it sends a very bad signal to everybody else.
You mean the expression of presidential regret?
Yes.
I thought that rather cures a certain mischief that, and I'm being charitable, inadvertently was put out by the senior minister. And I remember on this very program, some of us asked him to apologize, to retract and apologize. I didn't hear.
No, he hasn't done so.
And it has to take a precedent to do that. Maybe even too little, too late in the day. Okay, but at least it's okay that the president clarifies the thing, because it was obvious. We said it here that Mr. And this is somebody when I'm discussing, I find it so difficult because I have huge respect for him. You know, he's a senior friend of mine, but I think he goofed beyond recovery. There was no relationship from all my investigations between what had happened to Aisha and the Sino-Hydro thing. None of whatsoever. And all what he should have done, if he wasn't capable of doing, was to let somebody with a legal, acumen from maybe the Attorney General's office to talk about it, explain why the Nolly protocol. Even if you don't want to explain, just put it there, rather than go and bring in the economic diplomacy factor.
He's a senior minister. He sits in cabinet. Unfortunately,
that's what gave the credence to what he said. Okay, that's what made some people believe it. But the truth is that it was not, it was a baseless statement. I'm told he wasn't happy with me making my comments here, and I'm sure perhaps I'm not doing myself any favor in terms of our friendship with the same thing. But it was obvious that it was baseless. There was no factual basis. I can tell you that, and we said so here. But because it's a senior minister, putting that thing across gave government serious integrity challenges, especially when a presidential staffer, Charles Bisu, had come explaining that the Nolly protocol was put in because trying the jet lady would have been too expensive. See, it's not the first time Chinese people, miners, illegal miners, had been deported. I think we were here, Mr. Fusini was with us here. Over 4,500 were deported during the Mills Mahama administration, some before during the Kufu administration. Aisha Huang, why I was opposed to it, it has its own significance. This is
the queen.
A queen. So you deal with her through the legal. Thank you. That culture of deterrence. So we lost something on that. Otherwise, deporting Chinese illegal miners has become almost routine. And some of them, even when they are sent,
current immigration boss got caught up. The current immigration boss even get caught up in all the mess at a point. But he's back to.
It's fact. I have a list here. These Chinese people, it's about 2016. They were sent to the immigration center, arrested by the police. By 3-4 days later, they were back to the place where they were illegally mining. So we haven't been consistent and serious with that fight. But as for Aisha, we lost a great opportunity, and that is why I perceive that as unpardonable. She ought not to have been deported. I'm told she was on bail, and the state was trying to get the bail rescinded. It was becoming difficult. The state was seeking to get the bail rescinded because they found out that she was actually still, even on bail, had a network working based on her instructions. Then immigration comes in and says, oh, we found out that she traveled to Ghana on a fraudulent document. So that's the basis. Why? You are the lawyer. Fraudulent document, so if she's on trial, the option of removing her is there. But the option of trying her was still ongoing. And I think we should have gone for that if indeed we were serious and committed to the fight against Galamsey. And the Chinese are central to that. So letting her go the way we did no favor to government. And I think that one is a minus. Okay. Even the presidential regret, though mitigating, does not take away the integrity challenge that the senior minister put out.
Those who have been following this very closely, and if you read the Occupy Ghana statement, this is such a great disincentive.
Yeah.
And it will be difficult to win the fight by that single act of deporting her. And the expression of regret is not good enough.
You said difficult. I'm glad you didn't say impossible. I'm happy. You said difficult, and that I agree, because it creates integrity challenges.
So is the expression of regret enough? Is that okay? The president says we regret it. End of story.
Well, so the horse has bolted from the stable. We are talking of an individual.
And you were here when somebody suggested that when they come to power, they will bring her back and prosecute her.
Which was ridiculous.
Crime has no.
But you know that's ridiculous. It won't happen.
She can be extradited. That possibility exists.
It wasn't good.
So it should not be a closed door.
It wasn't going to happen. It won't happen. The point is that the presidential regret, belated though, has a mitigating effect, but it doesn't purge government of the integrity challenge that occurred when the senior minister, because of who he is and what he is, articulated. That's for me my view.
Okay, so as a communicator for the NPP, as a member in Parliament, and hearing the president say that, there are those who ask the question. So your earlier communications, those of you who were in the party and all your communication was that this was right, everything was okay with it, everybody else, you shut up. You know, how does it make you feel that something that some citizens and, you know, civil society said was wrong, that you defended, now the president says it's wrong?
Well, thank you, and good morning to my colleague panelists, and of course to our cherished viewers this morning. Of course, all the comments that people made at the time were all after the fact. It was after the lady had been deported that people's views regarding the actions that government had taken were expressed. So, like Kweku said, the horse had already bolted. So, question is, what was really the effect of the commentary? And I was glad that His Excellency the President was candid when this question was posed to him, that look, having evaluated all the surrounding circumstances, and you see, I hear the talk of Aisha being the queen, and I ask myself, who installed the queen of Galamsey? Of course, the news reportage.
Her conduct and exploits.
Yes, I agree.
It is well documented.
As though we categorize there as a queen of Galamsey. Yes. But like we said, proof exists that people who had, foreigners who had been involved in the Galamsey menace, when arrested, were usually deported. And so I guess that was what informed the decision to deport him, which, on hindsight, government is admitting through His Excellency the President that that may have been a mistake, and that going forward, what it is that government will do is to stop the process of deporting foreigners who are caught in the Galamsey menace and deal with them in accordance.
There are locals who are saying that our people have also been arrested and tried and convicted, and they are in jail. Are you putting a lot more premium on a foreigner than us? Why is it that in our case, where we have even committed the minor sins, we are in jail, and she is let to go, and an expression of regret is okay?
You see, something legitimate, but question is, what was the practice in the past when the 4,500 Chinese Galamseyers were arrested and deported? What was the practice with Ghanaians at the time? Were the Ghanaians also set free? I'm saying that if you look at it in totality, clearly distinguishing between foreigners and giving them a different treatment as opposed to what you do to Ghanaians cannot be right. And so the president having come out to admit that that act, which was done consistent with what the practice was in the past of deporting foreigners who were involved in Galamsey activities, cannot continue. And so it cannot be the case that because Ghanaians are arrested and prosecuted and we've treated Chinese people differently, that should be what is applied to Ghanaians as well. What we're saying is that going forward, yes, regrettable as this act may have been, no foreigner who is arrested in the Galamsey space is going to be deported, but rather dealt with in accordance with law.
The question now is, do you recognize the difficulty in the fight going forward?
I don't think so at all, because it's really about commitment and what it is that you want to do going forward. What has happened in the past has happened. We as a nation have in the past dealt with foreigners in a certain manner. We are saying that going forward, this is how we are going to deal with them. And I fail to see how that will impact our commitment towards the fight against Galamsey. Of course, there are issues that are being rolled out to address the Ghanaian alternative livelihood, the community mining program, and all that is being implemented, the mining districts that have been created to ensure that we do a sustainable mining program across the country going forward, I'm sure would all help in the fight against Galamsey, which essentially is the wanton abuse of our environment and the pollution of our rivers. And so if the policy has been rolled out that ensures that people do responsible mining, then our environment will be protected, and also people can still make money from the heritage that God himself gave us through the resources that he gave us in our natural resources.
Okay, so let's hear Duji on what the opposition makes of the twist. I can see you have the Occupy Ghana statement with you.
Yes, but I think that this conversation, if we look at it from how this whole Aisha Huang trial even commenced, and like Mr. Bako indicated, Aisha Huang is a whole institution on her own, and her unlawful, illegal activities are well documented. And so the expectation was that with the arrest of Aisha Huang, we're going to serve a message of deterrence.
That's right.
A message that tells other persons who have hijacked that and have created a certain mafia organization around the exploitation of gold, illegal activities bordering mining, among other things. And so if you look in terms of the narration, from the beginning, she was really not charged for mining-related offense. It was more about immigration, among other things. Yeah. And so quite clearly, from even in terms of government policy action towards her, it was towards a lesser offense. Then civil society groups then piled on pressure and said, look, she can actually, in fact, be tried under the Minerals and Mining Act. And so on that basis, the old charges were withdrawn and new ones preferred against her. Now the state started calling witnesses. And I was actually going to court and monitoring events. You understand? And so when this whole idea of filing the nolle prosequi came, by the time the nolle prosequi came, we were told she's already in China. It was a huge surprise to almost everyone. And the attitude of government around that time suggested that, look, there was something bigger that we're using her as a bargaining chip. Look, this whole claim that trying her was going to cost the state more. Where from that narration? I have been to court in Koforidua, the circuit court below, where Ghanaians, citizens of this country, were convicted 3 years, 2 years, some fined. And as we speak, they are still in and serving different jail terms in Ghanaian prisons. The state prosecuted them. How much did they cost the state in doing that prosecution? We had no problem prosecuting our own. Now, when you have the kingpin in that industry, freed on these very, claims, frivolous claims, then the conversation changed. It becomes even more problematic when the senior minister goes out there and provide a justification. And that was when we're having conversation about the Sino-Hydro, among other things.
Yeah. The timing, yeah.
The timing, the Sino-Hydro, when it will come. And now he provides a justification that her deportation is going to at least facilitate the money coming in. If you have this kind of conversation coming from the very top of government, first of all, it's an insult to the intelligence of the people of this country, because there are Ghanaians who are being prosecuted. Why? Is Aisha Huang better than Ghanaians serving jail terms because of illegal mining? Definitely not. Why? under the NDC administration, one of the biggest problems we had with the Chinese government was the mass deportation of Chinese. And in fact, it affected the 3 billion Chinese facility. But government was convinced, and I am aware of instances where the then woman who was the ambassador of China had problem with key government officials because of the position government took to deport them. Under no circumstance were we going to tolerate the activity. And sometimes a whole plane load of, you only see only Chinese and they are being deported. And so it created its own problem with government. But government said, look, we will deport you regardless of whatever it is. And they were deported. So if you have a situation where the same rule, you are able to prosecute, get successful conviction against Ghanaian, and then when it comes to the Chinese, you put out this narration, it creates a problem. But you see, when the president said it was a mistake, I thought that this was a matter that my own senior here and many MPP communicators defended. That under the circumstance, it was the right decision to take. So when the president says it's a mistake, what does it mean exactly? That the decision that, the factors, what informed that decision at that time was wrong. Was the president consulted when Aisha Huang was to be deported for the nolle prosequi to be filed? If the president was aware, what was his input? Have those factors that inform those decisions then, have they fundamentally changed? So that we can be sure that when our president says it was a mistake, interrogating the factors that inform that initial decision, his claim today that that decision is a mistake is well-founded. Because it may well be that it's just a convenience thing of saying that today is a mistake. Especially so, if there's a certain pattern of conduct, then it becomes problematic. And so it is not just enough. And that is why if you look, the media coalition for against Galamsey, they are saying that, Mr. President, they claim that today the deportation of Aisha Huang was a mistake. It's nothing more than possibly an admission that the exercise of the discretion to take her back, or to deport her in the first place, was not a proper exercise of judgment.
He refers to a question of conduct, and that certainly should remind us that when was the Rosewood Queen also deported?
I believe sometime this year.
That would have been several months.
No, she's been deported.
She was rearrested.
And now you can't find her.
That was several months after Aisha Huang's deportation, not so?
Yes, I believe so.
So
it's no pattern.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. So that's what I want to find out. How can people believe that this mistake on hindsight is genuine?
Samson, what was the rationale for deporting all the 4,500 Chinese under the NDC government and not prosecuting them here in Ghana? Because they had also been arrested for infringement of our mining and minerals and mining rules. Why were they not prosecuted? Why were they deported?
So for you, that's okay. Because you are going back to this the second time. You have referred to that earlier.
We as a country,
and I think you ought to be sensitive to those.
I agree.
You ought to pay attention to those Ghanaians who feel the equalization is not what you promised them.
I'm not seeking to equalize.
And that they did not vote for a government to come and repeat the wrongs they criticized.
That's not my intent at all.
Okay.
I'm saying that Eduji is making the point that the decision to deport this particular lady was exercise of bad judgment, if you like. And I'm saying that with the same parity of reasoning, what informed the deportation of the 4,500 Chinese people?
That's a question we have already asked.
Yes, you see. So I'm saying that we as a country, obviously, was implementing a certain policy with respect to how we treat foreigners who were arrested in illegal mining by deporting them. So consistent with the practice in the past of deporting 45,000 people, one lady was deported. We are saying that with her peculiar situation, where she had been committing offenses in the past, and you know, she being known to be a notorious Galamsey, we should have used her as an example. The president is saying that yes, on hindsight, the decision to deport her was not proper, and that I agree that we should have used her as an example. Going forward, that is what we are going to do as a country with respect to foreigners who come within the space. Okay.
Occupy Ghana says this is unfortunate, deflating and regrettable phase in the fight against Galamsey and a slap in the face of Ghanaians.
I don't think so at all. Unfortunate as it may have been. The truth of the matter is that there was a consistent policy that this country had been using with respect to how we treat foreigners.
Point is that as we speak, and from that point, many others would have been deported. But the question is about this particular person. Because, I just referred to you also the Rosewood Queen.
I guess that's why she was singled out in the question that was posed to the president. And no references were made to previous deportations or even subsequent deportations. And so I think that we should move forward. Decision was taken. His Excellency the President, following complaints by Ghanaians, upon reflection has agreed that yes, it was a regrettable decision. We should have prosecuted her in accordance with our laws. That was not done. Going forward, whoever is caught in that space is going to be treated in accordance with our law, and I think that should be the end of the conversation.
Wait, hold on, wait. Occupy Ghana said, we will judge the government in this matter, not based on its words and assurances, based on hindsight, but on its acts that are based on foresight. Let the government beget fruits that befit the repentance of the, quote, on hindsight mistake, unquote.
It's a fair comment. Government should take it on board and let it inform its conduct going forward. There's no need at all to try and rationalize that gaffe. You see, after all, look, our legal regime still has place for deportations, removal by the Immigration Service or the Ministry of...
It's basically an administrative thing that the Immigration Pool will do.
And it's there. We haven't taken them out. I have not had a problem with deportation of 4,500 Chinese per se. We couldn't really have accommodated them even in our business. Okay? They lead to different issues.
No, but the best practice we know is that if you're a Ghanaian and you committed a crime in the US, they will try you first, get you convicted and all of that, and then after you have served your term, then they deport you.
No, I'm looking at the figure quantitatively, 4,500. And that deportation happened within a matter of 6 months or so. We couldn't have contained it. 2 or 3 of them to serve as deterrents, okay. But the Aisha matter is distinctive, apart from her stature or status and the conduct over a period. Look, she had infiltrated and more or less grown the capability of manipulating our system. It was a critical thing. We're not dealing with just a woman called Aisha from China. Okay, so that one, I think we did a poor job. And it has become a problem because of what was said. One, the senior minister as well as the presidential staffer. They didn't help the matters. Those 2 things being put out there just created a serious integrity challenge for government. I say it's not fatal, but it affects confidence in the fight. And government ought to admit that. Those who defended government then on this matter must also have the courage to say that we were also wrong and we regret.
Okay, you had already asked for the apology long ago from the senior minister about the 2 billion Sino-hydroxide project, which many Ghanaians got angry because we knew that it was not a loan, it was not any dash they were going to give us, and that it was our resources that we're going to actually pay back. Now, even experts are suggesting, including ASEP, are suggesting that we may not be able to repay that.
When I heard that comment, I was wondering since when bauxite became an
anyway,
energy-related
so
matter.
let me get on the phone. Let me get on the phone and speak to Mr. Ken Ashigbe. He's the convener of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, the coalition that began all of this discussion and got a government buy-in and a presidential elevation of it, giving us so much results. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ashigbe.
Thank you very much. Today again that I have to be on Newsfile, unfortunately, I'm in my holy village in Cham, so I've not been listening to the program.
All right. Okay. So what do you say to those who say the president's admission of this being a mistake and regretting same is a very bold move, and it is something that deserves commendation rather than condemnation?
Well, for me, for what the president said, I also agree that it's only a leader who, a courageous person who make a mistake and publicly accept the error that they have made. And so I would agree that definitely it's a sign of courage. But what I would hope is that once the president has made this admission of the error, something that we had pointed out long ago, from when Aisha was arrested as a member of the coalition, Occupy Ghana petitioned the AG before the charges were amended from the immigration charges that were brought charged on her, and then it was amended to add the Minerals and Mining Act, to the point where the case was going to court, and then the Noli Prosequa was filed by the Attorney General, and we petitioned the Attorney General asking for an explanation because we thought that it was a grave error. It was definitely going to throw a spanner in the wheel of the government's own fight. It was going to be a demotivation to the officers of Operation Vanguard, to Ghanaian citizens who were given information. For everybody who was involved in this fight, it was definitely a wrong move. So we hope that the president would ensure that those who were responsible for that error, an error that all of us had seen, we make sure that they are held responsible. But not only should we also hold them responsible for the error that they made, but the changes that has to go on, we need to be able to start seeing them. Unfortunately, if you look at all the reports that Operation Vanguard gives, when Ghanaians and foreigners are arrested, the Ghanaians are handed over to the police, but then the foreigners are handed over to immigration. And we know that immigration will not prosecute anybody under the Minerals and Mining Act that the government has amended, and discriminatorily have harsher sentences for foreigners. But these people are handed over to the immigration. I remember sometime in September, that there were some Chinese that were arrested. They found in their possession arms and ammunition. And we all know that in this country, if you have arms and ammunition and you don't have licenses for them, it is a criminal act, and that will not be prosecuted by the immigration. But we are still seeing that these people are being handed over to the immigration. My check shows that from Operation Vanguard arrest, only about 14% of these people have been convicted. And I'm not too sure that there are any foreigners who have been convicted. So it is important that as the president has regretted it, we need to start seeing signs that now when these foreigners are arrested, including people from Guinea-Bissau and everything, they are taken through the Minerals and Mining Act, and they are punished. I would propose that all of these people, they get a combination. We find them and ensure that these fines go into reclaiming and restoring our land. And also they serve the maximum sentences, and then afterwards they are deported. So that when I was traveling to Malaysia recently, when they give you your visa, they stop in it that when you come into that country and you come and engage in anything with drugs, it is death. That is what the ultimate punishment is. And so that people would know that when I come into Ghana and I come and misbehave from any foreign country, I know that this is what the punishment I would get. Let's also be mindful that the Chinese ambassador, when was asked us that why is it that there's as much gold in South Africa as there is in Ghana, but then, we only see the Ghanaians coming, but the Chinese coming into Ghana. So that is also very, very important that we don't just stop as a regret, but we also ensure that going forward, we change the things that we're doing in the past so that they will no more see Ghana as an attractive place to come and destroy our land and destroy our water bodies.
So we know that we should get to the substantive matters, even though the suggestion now is that what has happened is such a major setback for the fight going forward. We know that even recently, is it Operation Vanguard or Calm Life? The Operation Vanguard has made some successes. From where you sit, as being one who follows almost every activity, how has the deportation affected the drive?
Well, definitely what it meant was that, for when you arrest these people who are really the catalysts for this Galamsey thing, the people then realize that, you do that, all they do is then they go and they come back. Because when you speak to the immigration people, now what they do is that because they are asked to get visas before they come into Ghana, they don't come directly into Ghana. They go into our neighboring countries, and because our borders are closed, they come back in and then they come back and do it. And if you recollect, very recently, the commander of Operation Vanguard asked us to turn our focus now to the people who actually are financiers. And we know that for Aisha Huang, she was not just involved in it, but she was a major financier. Not only was she a major financier, she was also a major source of which a lot of the monies that were gotten out of this was sent out of this country. So the commander of Operation Vanguard definitely is telling you that, and this was before the president made his statement, he's telling you that is a grave error. And these are the people to whom we need to focus. And another effect it's also had is that for the locals, they tend to think that this is discriminatory because when they are arrested, they are prosecuted, and some of them land in jail, but these people don't do it. So they also think that the best thing to do is to go and find these people to come and fight, and then they work with them. So definitely it was a major damper, and it killed the resolve of those who really want to fight it, and then it encouraged those who want to continue doing it.
Interesting. The locals who have also been issuing their complaints about this particular treatment, which they find discriminatory, what should be done to change that kind of perception, that this is a mistake, it's been admitted, and so going forward, there's also the assurance. The president said there's been amendment to the law, and therefore now it's even becoming a riskier thing to get into this thing.
Well, even in the past, before the amendment was made, the punishment for foreigners was harsher than that for local people. So if really we wanted to apply the law, it would have solved it. So the amendment itself is not what would tell the locals that something has changed. The thing that would let them know that something has changed is to ensure that these foreigners, when they are arrested, are not handed over to the immigration. They need to start seeing that these foreigners are prosecuted. We need to start seeing in the media that this person, this Chinese, this person from Guinea-Bissau, from Togo, from everywhere else, is coming and has been arrested and has gone through the process, been convicted. And that's the only way they will then begin to see that the discrimination against them has stopped. Remember that not too long ago, somewhere in the eastern region, there were some Ghanaians who were prosecuted. And that was a major thing that their families were saying. That these people do these things to these Chinese people. But then when they are arrested, it is only them that see the back of the jail. But they don't see it. So for this thing to change, it would require that when the arrests are made and Operation Vanguard hands these people over, the police investigators need to take this case up, do a good brief and give them to the prosecution, and we need to get these people through our law court, let them have a day in court. And it's also going to be important for the media itself to also follow these things so that when prosecutions are going on of foreigners, we also bring them out to the fore so that the locals will know that when you are arrested and the harsher sentences are applied to you, the same thing would also apply to the foreigners who are engaged in this. This is the only thing that would let us know that, as the president said, this is an error, then we are beginning to change what has happened. And then also we need to, for me, one of the fundamental things that need to happen, there are some things that are still lingering on. you remember the Anas thing that was done. As we speak now, currently, we don't know where it is. The special prosecutor is working on it. It is important that if they are innocent, the investigation should say they are innocent. Because in Ghana, definitely are presumed innocent to found guilty. But if also they are guilty, they need to also, face the consequences for what they have done.
All right.
So that it incentivizes the media itself to also begin to do this. Because it is important to name and shame. And my fear is that as we're getting close to the silly season, close to elections, if you're not too careful and we don't do this, take this as a national exercise, at the ground, the local politicians will start playing partisan politics with this thing, but it's an existential threat. So it's time for all the leadership of, who are involved in this to actually walk the talk that the president has started. That definitely for foreigners, the law says that it's a harsher sentence. So when they are arrested, we should ensure that we take them through the right processes. We prosecute them, and if it's successful, they should be both fined. Because bear in mind, the amount of money we require to be able to restore and fix our land is a lot. Let's take that as right from them.
What do you say to this? Finally, in a minute, the independent presidential candidate Jacob Osafo says that all the arrests made on Galamsey sites are fake, unless the person who has the license to mine on that land is also prosecuted. But he says those are the big guys for the government. How can you arrest and leave the employees?
Well, I think it's possible, because I remember when we went to Obuasi for one of the town hall meetings, one of the chiefs, what he said we should start doing is that anybody's land, he was not even only just talking about just the owners of the land or the owners of the concession, but also the chiefs who are responsible for that as well should be held accountable. I think for me that's been one of the failures we've had. Our intelligence of services should be able to turn their eyes onto those who actually are financing this thing. Renting an excavator for a day, it's not chicken feed. So let's ask, who are the people bringing all of these excavators in? Who are the people importing all these chamfantes? Who are the people financing this? Let's go through our banks. Let's follow the money. If we follow the money, we will be able to tell. So I agree with him. We need to start holding accountable those whose land they are mining them. And even the chiefs who are also in there. And I think critically also is the district chief executive. These people are the district, when you come to the district security committees, they are the chairpersons.
All right.
They also are responsible for the mining. So we should start holding them accountable whenever there's mining within India.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken Ashigbe. Ken Ashigbe is convener of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. They started all of this and thankfully got government's buy-in and the president taking a central role, ensuring that this thing was giving the focus that it needed. Kuku wanted to say something briefly. Yes, Kuku. Yeah.
Only that there are instances where the owners of the concessions themselves are victims of illegal activity. So thorough investigation is required.
Okay, I read a few messages and take your minute two from Andrew. Okay, so Dr. Clement Apak says that if the president says government decision to deport the Galamsey Queen Aisha Huang was a mistake in hindsight, may I ask Mr. President if the deportation of the Rosewood Queen Helen Huang several months after Aisha's deportation by government was also a mistake. I remain a citizen. Dr. Clement Apak, MP, Bulsa South. Let me just read a couple of the messages. Kofi Bento says that nothing in the CSE curriculum prevents rape or sexual predators. We can teach kids to avoid rape and predators without telling them to, quote, explore their sexuality, unquote, including forming kids groups. For that, education must be informative. CSE is unacceptably persuasive in a perverse way. That's the own it, live it part. Even adults struggle with sexuality issues. We err by imposing such things on the kids. It says we err by imposing such things on the kids. This one says that, okay, Elvis Darko says that don't be fooled. CSE comprises LGBT. All you need is to say children should be taught and given freedom to determine and enjoy their sexuality. In teaching this, other sexual orientations are introduced to the kids. This is where LGBT is introduced to the children as normal and acceptable. It is a canny way of avoiding the use of LGBT in the guidelines and curriculum, but end up being taught to the kids. So let us be careful what we do. Let's see what comes out of the president's meeting with the religious bodies either today or tomorrow. Yes, quickly, some 30 seconds. You can have 1 minute.
I think maybe to demonstrate the greater commitment from the president relative to the matter that we are discussing, and to show that the approach towards Aisha Huang has not been that discriminatory. Maybe the president should give a certain amnesty. Those of our compatriots who are already serving jail term. So we cannot start from a clean.
Thank you. Yes, yes, Andrew. Yeah. Yes. Yes, in 30 seconds, please.
Well, I think that the issues are clear.
Okay.
I mean, the decisions to
serious challenge.
deport the lady was clearly unfortunate.
Okay.
And His Excellency the President, in his usual manner, has been candid with the people of Ghana. And I think that we should just leave it as it is and then expect that going forward when people are arrested, regardless of where they come from, we'll deal with them in
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do stay here on Joy 99.7 FM because Nathaniel Atto will bring you an interview with GFA presidential aspirant Nana Iyao Amponsa on the Joy Sports link. After the midday news, there will be analysis on the disqualification of Wilfred Osei, a.k.a. Palmer, from the presidential race and the usual thrills of Formula One. Also on the show will be updates from Sunyani, where another aspirant, George Afriye, is currently launching his manifesto. So don't miss the Joy Sports link. Thank you very much. And this is where we draw the curtains. There are too many people who are saying that Professor Audrey Gajepo was missing the point about what is happening today and the LGBT and their crusade. Abdul Malik Kubako, editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Professor Audrey Gajepo was with us earlier. She's Dean, School of Information and Communication Studies. Dr. Prince Hamid Ama, Executive Secretary of the NACA, and Eduji Kujo Temeklo, a lawyer and member of the National Democratic Congress's communication and legal teams. And we were joined for the second and last segment by Andrew Ejapa-Mensah, who is MP 2nd D, Vice Chair, Communications Committee of Parliament. Thank you very much. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini. Have a good afternoon. The news is up next.